Hi, my name is Imran Haque, and welcome to another episode of The Voice of a Leader, a series where I interview high-achieving leaders and try and find out how they got to where they are. In Australia, there are currently over 100,000 people who are homeless, which is around 0.5% of the population. Homelessness, as defined by the Australian Bureau of Statistics, is a situation when someone doesn't have a suitable accommodation and their living arrangements are inadequate. This week, I caught up with Melanie Raymond, who is a current chairman for the not-for-profit organisation called Youth Projects. Melanie, welcome to The Voice of a Leader.
Thank you.
So you were born in England to an English mother who was a nurse and a Sri Lankan father who was a doctor. I'm just curious, how did they actually meet, your parents?
They met in an operating theatre when they were amputating a leg. So there's romance.
Oh, wow. And it's just seeing a person getting operated, it was a turning point, was it?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
That's incredible. So in your younger childhood years, you travelled to a lot of remote villages in West Africa, I believe for your parents' work. Yep. How was that experience?
Look, I think it starts you off with a different vision in life. I was quite young, but I think instilled in me and within our family was a burning sense of social justice. So this was in the 60s, the era of the civil rights movement. I grew up listening to that soundtrack, talking about those issues from a very young age. So that was always important to me.
Excellent. And how many years were you there?
We were there for a total of 8.5 years, but
yep.
I was small.
Sure.
But I think it's just a great contribution to seeing life differently. It was not a standard childhood.
That's fine. So when you came to Australia, you moved to Pascoe Vale South. I think you're currently residing there. And I've read many times you're a big fan of the north areas.
I'm a big fan of the northern suburbs. I wouldn't move anywhere else.
Sure.
And it's an area that's been very good to my family. And I think as migrants in an era when the White Australia policy still applied, we had to send colour photos of our faces.
Oh, really?
Australian immigration authorities could see how dark we were, you know.
Wow.
So it was an area that was full of emerging communities, and it was a lovely place to be for a family like us. And of course my parents' work meant that they were quite embedded in the community.
Sure.
And I think my father would have been the best doctor around to be in that community, and he said a doctor must live in the community he serves in. So a lot of people said, oh, well, that's a working class suburb. No doctor should live there. And he just couldn't understand that. You have to be in the community you're serving.
Good. And you're in particular a big fan of Sydney Road. I love that place, by the way, Sydney Road.
Watched it develop into something that, you know, was one of the most desirable suburbs and so forth. When I grew up, it was an embarrassment. You know, there was the prison was there.
Yes,
it was
I remember,
not seen as in the least bit desirable. So I think we've got the last laugh now when you look at all of the benefits of living in a diverse, harmonious community that's close to the airport and the city.
That's true.
Yeah.
So in 1996, you won a scholarship to do an executive program at I think it's a pretty average university called Harvard. It's pretty well known.
Have you heard of it? Yeah.
And how was that experience? You were there for 4 months, was it?
Yes, it was the long residential program in the business school, in the depths of winter, by the way.
Oh, wow.
But it's Harvard. You get the best speakers. You know, we had Noam Chomsky and John Kenneth Galbraith and people from the White House and the State Department.
Amazing.
And there was a study program attached, a 21-day study program. So I got to be linked up with the interests I had at the time. So working in the Harvard model with people from all over the world in what was really a hothouse environment, because there was no let up. You had assignments, you worked night and day, you worked round the clock, you got them done, you had to get on your feet and explain yourself. And I think the benefits are always longer. It's not right when you come back. It's later on where you realise, yeah, we were thinking about that when I was at Harvard. I heard this, 10 years ago. So it was the most incredible experience.
Most incredible, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because personally, I've been to that area. So I had a friend, very bright friend, who studied at Harvard, and something I noted was there's a lot of homeless people around the campus, which is quite ironic. Do you know why that's the case?
Well, I would think it's a very progressive community, so I know that a lot of homeless people will make the logical decision to be in a community that's not going to drive them out, where there might be more support services, but also a lot of students fall through the cracks, and possibly even Harvard students, I don't know. But if you're fallen on hard times and you cannot continue your studies,
sure.
Or it might be just being around a community that is more likely to give you a fair go when you're there. The fact is there are growing numbers of homeless families all over the United States.
Do you know what some of the factors for that is? Why it's growing?
I think the lack of employment opportunities, the fact that the minimum wage is so low that they've got the problem of the working poor,
sure.
They've now got the homeless poor. So people who are actually doing what is asked of them, they are turning up for work, and it's still not enough to put a roof over their head or feed themselves. I would hope our safety net can at least be maintained so we can do better than that. But the healthcare system is, the cost of healthcare is one of the drivers of homelessness. If you don't have proper healthcare, you can lose your home, you can lose everything just trying to get by.
Because I know in Australia, I think recently they've done a survey. I think on average around 30% of someone's income is just to the mortgage itself. So that would put a lot of pressure.
Well, the other thing is it's the pressure is concentrated in the mortgage belt, where families on low or middle incomes who are really, really stretching, and that's where the biggest rates of mortgage stress are in Melbourne's outer north, where people are staring at losing the home they fought to establish. So the increase in cost of living, the insecure work, the lack of job opportunities or access to employment, so you can't even get to where the jobs are contributing to those areas. It's quite concentrated and quite a repeated pattern around Australia around what's happening there.
Sure. In 2012, you were named top 100 influential women. That's a very good effort by Westpac and Australian Financial Review. You would have been pretty happy about that, pretty pleased.
I was very surprised. I like the idea it was about being a person of influence.
Sure.
So it was moving away from the concept of power, but to a concept of influence. And I think when you look who else was on that list, it was around people who are using their influence, who are connectors,
sure.
and who are generating relationships and bringing networks and people together to do good. And I think it was a reflection of that, I imagine. Yeah.
So what were some of the criteria to win that award?
It was about leadership. It was about how you have faced adversity,
sure.
about your capacity to use networks and collaborate. Yes, they did want to see outcomes, and I suppose in some of my work there are outcomes, but I think the focus really was about collaboration.
Good. So since 1999, you've been one of the chairmen for the youth project. What's some of the main tasks that you carry out?
Well, as the chair of the board, you've got your traditional governance role, which is around the strategy and the mission,
yep.
the guardian of the mission of the organisation, quite apart from just chairing the meeting.
Yeah.
It is so much more than that, because you're the legal head of the organisation, but you're also the person who needs to keep a level head, who needs to keep to the mission, to be able to motivate people, to be able to bring in resources. It's a role that's not as it used to be.
Sure.
Sometimes you hear of what I think is so last century around the role of the chair of an organisation. It's about being very, very present, about being an advocate, bringing in the resources, and helping and supporting the CEO while also appraising the performance of the organisation. You are also the organisation's critic. That's your job.
And you're also involved with the Victorian Ice Task Force, is that
Yes,
correct?
yes. Andrew's government moved very, very quickly to do something, and within 100 days had rolled out a very comprehensive plan for the state of Victoria, and I was privileged to be part of that rollout and to be able to look at the different steps that need to be undertaken, and also to make sure there was a funding stream, because you can talk about it, but the doing is the hard part, and the government really is very, very committed on that issue.
Good. And just for someone who would like to, say, be in your position, either a chairman or a CEO of an organisation that tackles, say, homelessness, what's some words of advice you give to these people?
I think if you want to be a CEO or a chair, these are the leadership positions. The buck stops with you. So be very, very certain that you understand leadership, that you understand that it's not a popularity contest, that behind the scenes you're carrying a great burden on your shoulders to perform and get it right. So make sure you fully understand what you're getting into. But I think you need to be able to demonstrate genuine commitment and heart about why you want to be in the sector. This isn't a frolic. This is real. There are very genuine needs to be met, and it's not a playground. This is a very, very serious sector where we are asking more and more. We are asking staff to try and work with less and stretch our resources. So it's very, very hard work, and be absolutely certain it's what you want to do. And then get involved in the sector, get to know people, demonstrate your worth, find an organisation or a cause that you know you're genuinely committed to, not a board appointment of convenience, but one that you actually care about, because they're hard yards being on a not-for-profit board, and work up like that.
And just very quickly, what's some advice you would give also to tackle homelessness?
I think we really need to stay very focused on the core drivers of homelessness, around the gap between rich and poor, about the fact that there is income, it's not being shared, opportunity is not being shared, we're in a fairly jobless growth cycle, and that if you want to create an impact, you need to look at alcohol and drugs, you need to look at mental health, you need to look at housing affordability. A lot of the donations are very welcome and in good spirit, but we need to stay focused at where you can create the actual impact. So it's not about making homeless people more homeless, more comfortable on the curb, and making their overnight stay a little bit more comfortable with a blanket. It's about what are we going to do to permanently change the trajectory for that individual's life.
Excellent. Melanie, thank you for taking some from a busy schedule to come on my show.
Very welcome.
Your building actually has a cafe now, doesn't it?
It does.
I'm going to grab a cup of coffee.
It's great coffee, make sure you do.
No problem. Excellent. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching another episode of The Voice of a Leader. Melanie is an incredible person, and just one of the key points she said to someone who wants to be a chairman of a similar organisation such as youth projects is that you need to have a lot of heart and commitment to carry out the role. Thank you again for watching this episode. Remember, if you or someone you know is a high-achieving leader and would like to have an interview with me, please visit my website, answer 3 questions, and send an email to thevoiceofaleader@gmail.com. Also remember to like my Facebook page and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you're kept up to date with the series. Thanks again for watching. Goodbye for now.